All right, guys. All right, let's try this again. All right. Should be able to hear me without feedback now, right? We'll get some invites pushed out and then we'll get going here in a couple minutes. Get some DMs pushed out. Dun, dun. Hope everybody has an amazing Monday so far. And we'll get going with some market updates. We'll see what's going on with you guys. All right. Send out a couple speaker invites. You guys are more than welcome to come up and discuss things today. I'm going to pull up some things, but if you guys can, go ahead and repost the space out. Let's get some more invites in here and we'll get going in a couple minutes, okay? All right, Paulie, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Oh, it's been Monday, right? Beautiful day. Be alive. All this great things going on, right?
Yeah, for sure, bro.
Um,
Working away.
when I get into working away, I was going to hit you up about hopping on in Discord and helping bust out some of that stuff tonight for the collection.
Yeah, man. More the merrier. Just going through the collection and making sure that we're not, missing anything, highlighting all the traits, got all the colors right, everything's squared away before we launch this bad boy. It's going to be pretty nuts, man.
Pretty epic.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some, I mean, not some, like every single one of these is so unique and so dope too, man. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be, first of its kind for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, seeing some of the artwork. Um, all right, so let's kind of get into a little bit. We'll talk about the markets where we're at. We usually do kind of a little bit of a recap. Right now, where total market cap is sitting at around 1.55 trillion. So it's been kind of holding steady. Let me see here. If I look at yeah, we've had a little bit of a drawback, but it's kind of ranging, so that's good. But it looks like we're about to pick up again with when I'm looking at a 4 hour chart, we are trending upwards. Bitcoin is right around 53.5 in dominance. That's something to keep an eye on as well, guys, in the market, because as we start to recover, um, we will see Bitcoin regain dominance over the rest of the market. So I think we're just going to range sideways a little bit. So BTC is trading at 42.6, ETH 2200, Litecoin 70, Doge at 9 cents, and Cadena at 71. So kind of seeing as I scroll through a lot of the cryptos that I'm watching, seeing a lot of red in the market, a fair bit of green too, but most of it's red. So overall, I think we're just kind of ranging. The market is kind of waiting to see what Bitcoin is going to do. Obviously, it's the big player in the market. So once it makes its move, then the market tends to follow along with that. So um, we'll kind of keep an eye on that as we always do, simply because Bitcoin is what we're highly invested in as far as the mining aspect of Xeno mining. So we'd like to keep an eye on what Bitcoin is doing because of what it's having coming up, meaning for the market and the overall altcoins as well. So So that's kind of the market view all over today. I don't know if anybody has any other kind of input into what the market's gone. I sent out, hey Gary, I see you up here as well. How are you today? He's feeding his face, I bet, right?
Mhm.
um, I get the yeah. Um, I see. It looks like Mark put in the topic for today: XRP CBDC white paper, cross chain crypto. I'm not completely sure what he wanted to go over today. I do know that I was able to catch a little bit of a discussion today. Um, there has been lots of discussion as of late on CBDCs being launched on the XRP protocol. I'm not fully sure how much that's going to play into it, how much of it is just talk at this point, how much of it is actually based on real data and what that might mean. Now, a CBDC being on the XRP would mean obviously low transaction fees and a lot of volume can be handled on the XRP. Um, but at this point, I don't have much to go on as far as solid data. It mostly just talks in some, what do I want to say? Uh, Projections, some theories going around that will be done. But until we have really hardcore data that it's going to go in that direction, it's a lot of speculation because there's so many different chains out there, so many different protocols, especially when we look at all the ISO tokens leveraging the messaging system of the ISO. We don't know which one is going to be the one that's going to get leveraged the most. Now, again, we can make speculations on that, but um, being what it is. Uh, I think the market makers like to keep people guessing. Um, One of those things I know a lot of people will pay attention to. I think it is Coin Telegraph for news articles coming out, but those can be biased as well. So a lot of times we have to sift through all the BS to find the correct news, um, and some of that can be misleading. With that being said, there are some great alternatives to some people who dive deep into that. That's why we like checking out Crypto Sensei. We like having him on into the community to keep us updated of what's going on, especially with XRP, especially within the ISO token ecosystem. That guy does a ton of deep dive information into that. So um, if you're not catching those inside of our Discord, make sure you join our Discord. Hop on those events when he does come in and share, because the guy's an absolute beast with information. So, but do we even want CBDCs? Or, what role are those going to play into the whole ecosystem? And most of you are probably aware that there's two sides to that. One being CBDCs can be used for a lot of government programs to send out payments. We might even be receiving stimulus, so-called stimulus checks, in the future on CBDCs, but there's a lot of control and monitoring that goes along with those. So there's, good and bad along with it, right? So if on government programs we're providing assistance and those payments goes out in CBDCs, some of those people will not be able to spend that money on certain things. Maybe you wouldn't want them going and spending government assisted funds on alcohol, tobacco, firearms, ammunition, right? Some of that stuff could be restricted to simply buying food items or paying utilities as necessities, right? And that could be controlled. The downside to that is that they can control it, right? So um, if we were to receive a stimulus payment in CBD format, if that money can be controlled, could they then limit what you could purchase, monitor, and then use it as an ESG governance thing where if you purchase something they don't like, then maybe they restrict how much money you receive. Um, Not only that, some other ESG governance items that come along with that by restricting where you can spend that money, where you could travel. There's a lot of downside that comes along with that as well. So Um, all that needs to be considered. Uh, the more, in my personal opinion, the more we can keep government out of our pockets, the better. How about you, Polly or Gary? How much do you
Uh,
like having the government involved in your pay and your taxes?
well, I mean, technically, the government is my pay, so
In your case, that is
Right?
right. Touche.
but no, I mean, as far went off grid and I'm pretty self sufficient
You're
now
rugging a
because I
little
don't
bit,
want to be
Polly.
dependent on, obviously get my paycheck from the government, but, um, outside in any other way,
Yeah.
Am I rugging or am I good?
Yeah, I would consider. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I would consider myself to be, yeah, in a political view, more conservative slash libertarian. Where I think, it's ridiculous that how much we get taxed on all the things that we purchase, taxed on the roads that we drive on the car that we get taxed on. And it just seems like, oh, wait, even when you die, you get taxed, right? There's a freaking, what do you call that? Like an inheritance tax. You've already paid the taxes on all this money. You just simply want to pass it along to your family. That's why I think there's intelligent ways to get around that through trusts and things like that, where you can mitigate a lot of that. So, keeping the government out of your pocket as much as possible. I think that's going to be a big thing for our community to come together with, and educate them. It'd be great if we were able to find an expert that could come into our community and speak about the ability of trusts and how we can go about securing, um, the wealth we're able to generate through, cryptocurrency, right? Because as we continue to mine, looking at the returns on mining aspect of what we mine over at Zeno, with, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Doge, and Cadena to start with, those rewards are going to start adding up as we put more and more miners online, which just means that the money is going to keep rolling in. Well, I, for one, want to figure out a way to put that money to good use, minimize my tax exposure, and maximize what I'm able to, control and keep in my pocket as much as possible. Um, so I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that, as far as, having somebody come in and at least educate. I mean, I know we're big on the education component. So I would like to go ahead and at least, uh, research that pathway, because I know there's going to be other people as well that are going to be interested in securing that, especially if you have family, children that you want to be able to pass these items, this wealth onto. Um, I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And obviously, like when I say I'm off grid, like there's still a dependency, right? Like, I mean, I'm not like I don't have like a full garden and a cow and like I have to go to the store to buy milk and to buy bread and to go to the grocery store to get gas to I mean there's a lot of things that I'm dependent on from a certain standpoint and I'm getting taxed on and I don't know that that ever goes away, at least for me. I'm sure that there's people out there that you know live in the wilderness and live on their own and there's no dependency, but I don't see that happening specifically for me where there is no dependency in any shape or form. But I'm trying to be as self sufficient as I can and minimize those dependencies because I think you're right, man. Like, especially because I live in California, where we have Governor Newsom, and we get we get raped. I mean, just flat out, man, raped on tax of gas, groceries. Like I just went Christmas shopping, right? And tax is ridiculous at stores. Yeah, so I think like the space topic, like XRP, the CBDC white paper. If you haven't read the white paper, it's available online. You can go and download it and read it, and it's pretty interesting. But I think talking about how this is just another chain where the introduction of the CBDCs is really like it's yeah. I mean, it kind of spells it out on the website, man. It's a defining transformation in the history of money, right? To where
Hmm.
you're continuing to limit that dependency. Um, and this report really actually is providing the central banks, again, as it says, with the framework for implementing CBDCs and guidance for ensuring global interoperability, the cornerstone of success for CBDCs. And it goes on to say how the underlying technology is implemented and monetary policies are set over the coming decades will determine whether sovereign backed digital assets open the door to enhance global trade and financial inclusion or maintain the siloed, inefficient, and inequitable status quo. So, I mean, yeah, that kind of statement sums it up for me. If this is something that gets adopted, and I mean, obviously, it already has in some ways, shapes or forms, but obviously, Ripple, and I guess more importantly, even for us and for collections that are out there that are on Ripple, like as we move forward to this XRP Army collection, like there's some big things that could be happening, that would obviously benefit our community in a huge way.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And if you like, I'm actually looking on CBDC um, tracker site, and there are several countries that are in proof of concept. Some that are still in their pilot programs. There's several that are still researching. Um, and it is growing. I mean, the talks of it, even um, looking at a headline of Palau advancing their CBD concept into its next phase, and that is also with Ripple, right? So we're seeing this narrative coming up more and more where these countries are continuing to either launch their pilot programs or definitely in research. So part of that has to coming into the CBDCs are coming, right? These countries all wouldn't be in pilot programs researching proof of concept phases if this wasn't really the narrative that they're going to push and move us into. The central banks want to retain as much power and control as they want or can get, right? So that is kind of why crypto was started, was to get away from this centralization, and this is just a way of pulling it back in. Now, if CBDCs launch, I'm very interested to see if people are investing in XRP and CBDCs get launched on that, what is going to be the implication of the price action of XRP? Is it going to see an increase in price because of the utilization, especially on the back of a CBDC? Um, so I think those of us who are heavily invested in an XRP, we're kind of interested to see that aspect. Kazakhstan central bank is reviewing a digital TENJ pilot. Taiwan central bank completes wholesale CBDC study. So these things are kind of constantly coming out. So I think this is the narrative. Um, I think that with the technology that XRP has, to be able to process the amount of liquidity that it can, has a very strong um, opportunity to do that. Um, yeah, I don't know what else more to say about that
No, I
particular
agree, man.
aspect of
Yeah, you're right. You right, fool. You right.
it. How about you, Gary or Leo? Oh, Gary dropped down, huh?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I see that is going to see sooner or later, the paper money is going. Everyone knows it, they know it. So there's a fight. They're scared. And the biggest thing that I see is whenever people get introduced to the digital world, they think this is the answer to get rid of it, but it isn't. Because all it is an open door to get people awake to it. And when they see it, how it's a lot cheaper, there's no fees, it's faster, then they're going to jump on board. So if I was them, I'd be scared, to use their power, use their corruptness to stay paper. Because they go digital, they're going to wake a lot of people up. Once they get people to know what that is, then they're going in the other way.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were just talking about how even the younger generation is looking for their money to be able to move at a faster pace. Simply, because of the advancement in technology, how quickly we can send a text message, an email. They're looking for their money to be able to do the same thing. And even though, for the large part, we are in a digital system already, it's still running off an antiquated processing system in the back. It is a movement of numbers, but, and I can send somebody Zelle and it is gone out of my bank account, but it had not fully processed, even though those numbers have changed. Um, and the receiving party has received it. It's been deducted from my bank account, but it's not actually fully processed because it's still moving on an old antiquated system. But there's a lot of liquidity that's locked up in these banking systems that they're looking to unlock, and a CBDC being able to send money. We're really looking at how this becomes an interoperable global system, right?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Yeah. If it doesn't, I think like Leo's saying, like at some point you could see, the dollar, the paper money, the coin, start to expire. I think that's a long ways out, because of, I guess, working in where I work and seeing the like proclamations and grants and funding and like recovery efforts for natural disasters and how FEMA gets involved in federal money and the creation of federal money through a print when money's needed and et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think you're a ways away from seeing that happen because now you're talking about that has to all, take place through a digital currency. And that's a massive like overhaul, for, you know, disasters and natural disasters and the government. And yeah, again, I think we're a long ways from that. Is there going to be some initial adoption? And, as there already is, right? Like you can already rent a hotel room, buy a car. Like there's a lot of things you can do with digital currency now. But I think like a mass adoption and seeing like paper money go away, I think we're a long ways away from that.
Well, you brought up a good point there, and in like natural disasters and things like that, and even when there's programs launched. I mean, when we look back at COVID and the assistance that was put out with COVID, the amount of fraud that was involved in that for people who were able to secure loans. I think there was a lot of fraud with receiving some stimulus payments and such. Would there be an advantage to actually doing it in a CBDC format so that uh, fraud, if detected, that money then could be, though that money could be basically killed off, right? Um, if it was in fraudulent, of course, because it can be tracked on the blockchain, right? I'm wondering if that even may decrease the amount of fraud committed because of it being tracked like that. Um, and being able to be delivered to somebody based on their actual identity verification before they could receive funds.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be an advantage to it, being able to track funds, because there is a lot of not just fraud, but misuse or misappropriation of funds too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not tracked, and obviously, as we know, there's a lot of officials high up in the government, in every government too. Let's not just say U.S. government, but in every government that are receiving funds, misusing funds. And that would obviously kill a lot of that too, which is another reason why I think that it's not going to be adopted as quickly because that's also going to affect you know a lot of our government officials who are receiving money and now they can't hide it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if it's
Mm-hmm.
tracked, they can't hide it. So why would they want to push it through?
Yeah, because cash is king, right? It's for the most part, without having serial numbers, you can't really trace it. Um, if you're doing something nefarious, I'm not sure why you would want to use blockchain technology that could be eventually tracked.
Well, yeah, and I mean, look at some of what's going on right now, with the current administration and funds that have been received, and think about if those were all digital currency, it'd be a pretty open and shut case, right? Versus there's a lot of investigatory work and trials and going on to try to track funds and confirm where funds were moved and where funds were spent and how much funds and all of that, those questions would all be answered pretty quickly. So again, like why would, some of those, current people in administration or government officials, why would they approve, a digital currency? They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
held accountable now.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be the best thing for sure. But again, I just don't see it happening, you know, where it's a mass adoption because there's too many, especially all the old timers, man. I mean, look how many old farts are in the Senate and, in different levels of government. Like they don't even have the first fucking clue about digital currency. So, it's even more foreign to them, which is going to take even longer to push through.
Right. Yeah, I think that those are the challenges of getting this regulation squared away is we, having some of the players in Congress and such that we have and that probably don't even have the I want to say maybe the intelligence to even understand the impact that this is going to have. I think some of us who are in the system, trading these, learning about them, building within the ecosystem, definitely looking for the regulatory clarity, but we're trying to get regulatory clarity from like a sloth, that's 100 years old, right? It doesn't really, it, it's not, they've already, why would they, if they're already wealthy, why would they care, about creating regulatory, especially if the system they've achieved their wealth on, works to their advantage, right? Rather than changing it, like you're saying, them losing the ability to manipulate it or do things off the books. Why would they want to, move that goalpost any closer to shutting that down for them, right? Um, yeah, that's going to be tough. But I think we are in the middle of this transition and we're just, it's not going to be an overnight process. It's going to be, we're talking, I think, years long. And I think we're seeing this come out with, the BRICS narrative, trying to move away from the US dollar being the standard. Um, and moving into their own cryptocurrency or having a basket of cryptocurrencies that they can now get away from the US dollar. Um, yeah, I think we're just seeing the US slowly losing its grip, um, of power and control that it has. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think there's good from the standpoint of I think they've powers that be have manipulated it to their advantage for a long time. So, but to get us all around the world on a system that we can function better, um, yeah, I think that could be good for some other countries. It may be bad for us, um, in the short term, but maybe better overall from a global economy to all be on a system where we can start transacting um, and moving money at a faster pace, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Well, once the sort of the community worldwide hits digital, then it's going to go to a point where it's just going to be everybody in the whole planet's going to be on the same monetary money system. So everyone's going to have the same money system. It's going to control everything.
Hmm. And again, that could be good or bad, right? I'm just glad we're early because it gives us the opportunity to capitalize. And along with that early capitalization of wealth, it definitely will open doors for us to have some um, a little bit more, dare I say, freedom, than other people that are going to be so late to the game that they will be almost enslaved to the new system to some degree, right? So I think us being early adopters, building within it, learning that this transition is a tool for us to build some economic wealth for ourselves and our community, will help a lot of people. not only from the standpoint of inside the community creating some wealth, but also to take that back and put it into some actionable items in the real world to make a difference, right? Especially for some veterans that we would like to service.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's well put. It definitely benefits us for sure, as far as from a business standpoint. I don't know about every individual, around the world, but those that are already invested early are obviously going to be a way ahead of the game, right? And that's obviously what we're trying to do here in this community is bring people in, educate, assist. Obviously, like, we say like not financial advice, do your own research, but a lot of what we're doing is giving our own insight based on our experiences, right? Like, having somebody like Mark, who's the president, who has, a master's degree in future technologies, obviously, success in the investments that he's done, and then people like you and other people on the team that have experience, digital currencies and better opportunities for them. I think it just gives us the opportunity to provide some insights. It's not necessarily financial advice. Everybody needs to do their own research, and that's not just saying that. Like people come in spaces and say, and FADYOR all the time. That should be like just the golden standard for an individual. Before you go drop funds on something, you should be doing your own research. You should be reading white papers. You should be going into discords and asking a lot of questions. And especially like with us, and that's one of the things that immediately stood out to me was I can jump chat with anybody that's on the team. I can jump into the voice chat and ask questions. It's not like I'm just asking questions in Discord or I got to go find the information. If I want to jump into the voice chat and have a discussion with somebody, I can do that. And there's not a lot of projects out there like that. So I think that's the difference I see with us in this group is there's a lot of experience on the team, and not just in digital currencies, but in life, in all aspects of life. That's kind of why we've picked the guys in the team that we've picked. But it gives us the opportunity to give, you know, I say just our experience. It's not necessarily advice, but sharing our experiences with others. And then, in an education standpoint, like helping to educate people where they have questions, again, based on our experience. So this is just another topic where we're doing our own research and diving into the XRP CBDC white paper, reading through the white paper, educating ourselves so that we can then share that information with the rest of the community.
Agree. I will say this. I actually caught a YouTuber that I follow today who is talking about he is in the UK and he actually got a call from his bank and basically got grilled on his purchasing of cryptocurrencies from his bank account. And they wanted to know all kinds of information about, where his funds came from, his business, how much of it. They literally were very invasive, he said. And they've asked so many questions of him, what crypto platforms he was using to purchase, what they wanted to know his wallet addresses and things like that because they were threatening to basically close his account down um, because of his purchasing of cryptocurrencies. And at some point, it's kind of like, how invasive are your banks going to be? Are they going to come for your crypto, or are they going to come from it from the standpoint of, you know, decreasing your options as far as on and off ramps um, because of you using your bank? Um, and at what point is it become just too much, right? If they want to know, what wallets are yours, who's to say? This is his point of saying enough is enough. How invasive are the banks going to be into, you know you look at what happened with Ledger and the recent security breach that they had with some coding, um, and it looks like that was an employee of Ledger that was able to sneak that code in. Who's to say that somebody at the bank doesn't take that information that you're basically arguing and make yourself you're made out to be like a criminal because of all this questioning, and they say, well, we're not going to share that information with anybody. But who's to say that somebody within that bank nefariously takes that information now and says, "Oh, this person's got half a million or $1 million worth of crypto in this wallet. I'm going to take that information and I'm going to sell it on the black market to hackers, and they're going to go after this wallet address or this individual."
Mm, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I think that this is going to be a really big battleground that gets drawn as we start getting into CBDCs and the banking, conglomerates wanting to control it or be invasive into your privacy. And obviously, with blockchain, I mean, there's you can only be so private because it's all kept on the blockchain. But um, at what point do you just say enough is enough? And either A, you're going to now close your bank accounts with banks that are inherently going after all this information, making it tougher for you. So you go to a different bank, or you start to see different on and off ramps start to pop up to solve this problem that banks are just asking way too much and being way too invasive. Um, it could be opening a new market, for on and off ramps. And I know there's other options out there, but for many of us, it's very easy to go to, say, Coinbase, attach your bank account, do an ACH transfer to on ramp onto there, purchase your crypto, and either leave it on there because you want to trade it, or send it to a wallet address where you can control the keys, right? Um, I think these battleground is going to become a larger topic of discussion because this was no small bank. This was Santander Bank, and they're they're not. I don't think they're so big here in the U.S. as they are over in Europe. Um,
Yeah.
but oddly enough, I actually have my auto loan through them. Um,
No wonder you
I
know
had
so
never heard of them, but
much.
I'd never. Yeah, well, I never heard of them before I went and got this auto loan, and I was able to do it through the dealership when I got it because they had a great rate. Um, I was happy to take that, but I had never heard of them before. And then after I got my loan, I started looking, and I was like, man, they're a big bank. I'd never heard of them before, but um, this is I think going to become one of those big things. And there's a lot of talk right now. Um, with what's going on in the banking system. How many of these banks are going to have financial issues? Are they going to get swallowed up by larger banking institutions? I think our economy is just in a fucking mess right now. So I don't know. Thoughts on that, guys? Leo,
Yeah.
Paul,
Leadership.
what leadership? We got Brandon leading us.
Mm.
Um,
In a
anybody
rough
down in the
spot.
audience?
New
Yeah,
leadership, and they're
anybody down in
looking
the
at
audience?
the direction.
What's that again?
I just said it's not just us here in the U.S., right? Like, there's obviously a lot going on in other countries, but some people are headed in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, I think the goal for them is to get as many people that are unbanked. There's a lot of cash moving off the system, right? And if they can get all those people that are unbanked onto into the banking system, especially into a crypto system where they can funnel everything through CBDCs. They can start to finally see where money is going. Now, I know there's been some arguments that they can kind of get ahead of trends, or they can see where money is getting bottlenecked, and I could see that being helpful in some ways. Um, the challenge is how many people have access to a banking system. If they can get access to cryptocurrencies, they can make transactions. Making a transaction where you necessarily can do it from device to device, where I could send a payment to somebody standing next to me without even having to have, say, an internet connection, but I could send them money. I think these are going to be the things that they're wanting to solve in order to get more of the unbanked banked and get more of that money moving through the system so they can see what's going on. Um, And again, that can be good or bad. I mean, there's a large amount of people that are in, I guess, what you could say, third world countries, per se, that are unbanked, that do a lot by cash. And if they can get them into the system, then they can start looking at seeing where all this money is flowing, and take a closer look at it. But I think that that just comes with another set of issues as well. Again, everything comes with balance. There's going to be good and bad with it. Bad with this nefarious people taking advantage of the system. So I think for us, the big thing is not your keys, not your crypto. Be smart about where you store it, how you store it, because going back to that story I was talking about is if people even know that you have a certain amount of crypto, they might even, if they're able to get your personal information, your address, and then head to, they could rob you, right? And even if they weren't, I mean, this could go down a big rabbit hole because people could basically be held at gunpoint and said, "Hey, give me your ledger, unlock it, send and transfer your crypto," right? In a nefarious way. So, I think there's another set of issues that come with losing some of this privacy and controlling it. But um, yeah, I digress from here.
Mm, yeah.
So when I give him I'm gonna give him your address, Paul, not mine.
They'd have to shoot me. It's not
Well,
happening.
yeah. Um,
I seen a political cartoon that said that sometimes when an emergency happens and the government steps in and has to write up cash, then illegal things happen. And then they're so used to it that now they create emergency things to happen so they can do illegal things.
oh, sure, no doubt about that.
I mean,
Um,
since COVID, it's like all of a sudden we're printing this money, and then more wars, printing this money, more wars, printing this money. Well, it's just like a Ponzi scheme because where's the money coming from? There's no backing. So the interest rates go up, the value goes down. So it's like it's just a never ending black hole.
yeah, yeah. I'm reading through some other. Looks like everybody following what's going on with Binance, with CZ stepping down. Looks like I see a title: U.S. court approves settlement against Binance firm to pay 2.7 billion to the CFTC. Um, So I wonder if that's going to be their slap on the hand and then continue to operate and then move on from there, or what the impact's going to be as far as Binance, from a global standpoint. I know that there's been, I know for one, I have used their on and off ramp when you could put USD on there, but I have, definitely taken my risk off the table and transferred, anything that I had on there off into other wallets, and just in case anything were to happen with that platform and it goes down. But we're really at the mercy of some of these crypto exchanges, to be following these guidelines, because you can simply go back to the FTX issue with meeting with the SEC. A lot of people probably felt pretty comfortable with all the conversations they had going on there to just have FTX just absolutely rug them. And that was some big players there, on that platform. I mean, even it says FTX loses 53,000 every hour on bankruptcy fees. So I mean, I'm not even sure why anybody would want to put money back into FTX after that whole issue. But I don't know. It's interesting to me. You have what happened with Luna, and even people are still putting money into Luna. Um, yeah. Anyway, all right. What other news is there that we want to discuss today?
Sorry, bro. Give me a minute. The wife and kids are getting in the door, and it's about to get really noisy for a couple minutes in here.
Yeah, no worries. Again, anybody else that's in the audience down there, man, if you guys want to have any discussion related to the crypto markets, feel free to raise your hand. We'll bring you on up, and we'll go from there. This is always an open discussion platform. I will tell you, I try to stay up as much on the news and things that are going on in the market, but it's really tough with the amount of things that are going on with all the different cryptocurrencies. Trying to invest, trade them, and stay up on them can be really challenging. That's why it's nice to have, the team that we have with mining, some of the guys that are following what's going on in the news. Um, some of the resources that we tap into, with like Crypto Sensei, and Cryptonaires. They're a good platform that put out a lot of good emerging information in the markets. So if you haven't checked out Cryptonaires' Discord, or his YouTube channel, you can find him on there, Robert Doyle on YouTube. Check him out. Definitely a tons of great stuff that he puts out. Um, I'm trying to think what else is going on in the crypto sphere today. Anything that you've come across, Leo?
Something that we talked about 3 minutes ago, but it's in a different way. So Web3, there's been a lot of projects that's rugged. So FTX was not, I mean, it was Web3, but it wasn't because the real world took it. Just like the stock market. Um, NFL, Major League Soccer, MLB, NBA. Every time you saw a game on TV, even on the ESPN Plus, FTX commercials, like three of them every hour during the game. You know, so it was mainstream. So someone had some power and money to put that on the TV, and for the Major League Sports in the United States to sponsor that. Because in the United States, the Super Bowl, NBA championships, this World Series, you know how much people around the world watch that. So when you have in that 3 hours of time, when you have 6 or 7 commercials of XDX, it's going to attract a lot of customers.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, when the rumor came up and it started being true, all the programming dropped everything. So they didn't take the time to warn people that you better get out. They just dropped it for advertising off the networks, and then they just let it crash. So it's like you're the one that sponsored it, 50 times a day, every hour. So it's like how come there was no, apology or notification that it's going bad and please take your money out, protecting the people? There wasn't. They just dropped them and let people hang. That's what bugged me.
Yeah, I want to touch on this aspect of relationship between government and crypto, because there's a lot of talk about Elizabeth Warren, and she has brought several bills in front of legislation, and um, she's got a latest legislative piece, the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act, and it threatens to undermine crypto's core principles of freedom and personal sovereignty. While she argues that her bill is necessary to combat illicit activities, when you take a closer look, it reveals its potential to stifle innovation. Not only that, endanger the privacy of the user, and literally plays right into the hands of big banks. Um, she is co-sponsored this with another senator from Kansas, and it's based on the premise that digital assets are increasingly being used for criminal activities such as money laundering, ransomware attacks, and terrorist financing. So I see this narrative continuing to be pushed, that cryptocurrencies are bad because they're being used for nefarious things. And I think that, going back to some other recent articles, it was a very, very small percentage of crypto, and I want to say it's single digit percentage that was actually being used for these nefarious things, right? Um, but some bad actors exploit digital assets. Of course, they do. The bill's approach of treating all developers and wallet providers as potential criminals is not only impractical but also dangerous, right? So that's where, I was talking earlier about that guy's conversation with his bank. Is he was getting grilled and made to feel like a criminal. Um, and just for us investing, and most of us are just investing with the prospect of this new tech and this new innovation, the prospects of it being able to trade this and increase our wealth. um, it also says in this article the most dangerous part of the bill is the requirements that digital asset developers comply with the bank secretary Secrecy Act, right? Responsibilities and know your customer requirements. Basically, placing a burden of enforcement on the shoulders of software developers when that's not even their repertoire, right? They're in the development of these things, not in um, the actual legal side of the aspect. They're there to build and develop this technology, and now you want to place this burden onto a developer, and I think that's going to, especially here in the U.S., stifle the innovation even more so than it has been by the whole SEC lawsuit, its impact on the crypto markets. And things like that, and so basically, the writer of the article says that placing that burden on the software developers is akin to requiring car manufacturers to be responsible for how their vehicles are used on the road. Well, that's quite interesting because um, you that same logic right there, I find also akin to what they're trying to do, and this is a tangent probably, but what they're trying to do to gun manufacturers as well, right? How is it that when there is a shooting incident that they want to go and sue the gun manufacturers for the cause of it, but yet when there are motor vehicle accidents, they don't go sue the car manufacturer, do they? So where's the logic? But I think the narrative of curbing access to guns is a much more of a hot topic that pushes some buttons and has control over it, right? But reading this just kind of it screams of how they're wanting to use legislation then to not only curb uh, the innovation, but also to steer it towards what they want. And I believe that is that the big banks, especially the central banks, they want to retain power and control. Digital currencies in their current state allow people to operate outside the system if they so choose. And there's a certain amount of freedom, and they do not want that freedom to occur. It does not suit them. All right. There's my tangent. Thoughts, Leo? Thoughts, Paul,
Yeah,
if you're back?
yeah. I think the biggest thing that I see is that um, the people that are, like Gary Gensler, like the woman that you just said, um, their time is short, and it's just they're scared, so they got to use their power, to the last breath. And if they can get a foothold, you know, but you think of, you talk about money laundering. Well, crypto's sort of new, but way before that, there was a lot more laundering being done in the fiat banks. So it's like, how come you're not going up to the banks?
Hmm.
It's just it's so common sense is out the picture. They just want to squash it because there's freedom and they don't have control. That's all it is.
Yeah. There was a recent tweet by Brad Garlinghouse going back to Ripple a little bit, um, that they're putting a stake in the ground, leading the charge with other industry leaders to support pro innovation and pro crypto candidates in 2024. In the election cycle, the U.S. cannot afford to continue taking a back seat on the global stage. I think that's well said by Brad Garlinghouse. Um, how are they going to achieve that? By supporting some of these maybe pro crypto candidates, remains to be seen. But I definitely think that the regulatory overreach by, especially from the SEC, um, has been moving the U.S. definitely in the wrong direction, while other countries around the world are absolutely embracing it, taking full advantage of it, especially in um, the vortex left by the U.S. Being held back by this, right? So um, I definitely think you're seeing a lot in the, especially in the Asian markets that are very pro crypto. Um, you know, taking full advantage of that, like as I said, that vortex that's being left. But Andrew Andreessen Horowitz, founder and managing director Chris Dixon, also announced that the firm would contribute to the Fair Shake PAC in 2024. This PAC aims to elect leaders who champion thoughtful crypto regulation that balances consumer protection. So I think this will be an interesting election cycle because um, are we going to get a youth turnout in the election? Are the youth interested in politics and how it affects them in the future? Are they going to become more active in this? And typically, you know, most of us, I would say, if you think back to when you were maybe in your teens and, or middle or your early 20s and your mid 20s, were you very thoughtful about politics and how it impacted you? Probably not for the majority of us. Until you got to a certain age where you started to notice, hey, well, I'm working my ass off. I'm paying a shit ton in taxes. What am I getting back from my politicians? What service are they providing me in protecting me as a consumer? Or have they continued to just reach their hands into my pocket more and more? Um, and maybe that youth is going to change that as they come into the workforce, start seeing how hard they work, if they're working hard, um, and seeing what they're paying out in taxes. Will they start to look for um, who to support in politics that supports their views, supports moving us in a better direction? That'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how this 2024 election year pans out. It'd be interesting to see if we can get the youth involved in politics. Um, I don't know. That's a great question. There is a battle in Washington about the future of blockchain technologies, and certainly policymakers would like to see it banned, while others think they should have no guardrails at all. There's two sides of that. Neither of those options will allow technology to reach its full potential and realign the future of the internet away from big tech to the people who use it. So I think giving us power back to the people, it should always be about that. My personal opinion, government's gotten too big, um, and we need to bring the power back to the people. That's going to take some very actionable items. If you guys were here when Jim Ferguson was on one of our spaces, there is a movement to take back some of this control, especially with the whole incident with COVID lockdowns, its impact financially, what it's done to small businesses during government shutdowns where we were forced to shut down. Um, eliminating some of the ability for some of these small mom and pop stores to keep their doors open. Some of the stifling effects that the shutdown had on them as well. Um, all good things to consider when we start to look into 2024 election and what we want from our government officials. So that's just my 2 cents. But according to Political, this Fair Shake PAC that they're looking at has already spent 1.2 million on television advertising campaigns in the U.S. To bring awareness around these crypto uh, uh, crypto pro politicians for the 2024 election year. Anyway, all right, thoughts on that, Paulie, Leo, if you're around.
Yeah, in the US, I work a lot in the last 10, 15 years with government agencies like Medicare, Medicaid, and the VA. So, you know, especially Medicaid, there's it's state, a lot of it's state rules, um, but it's all about budget. And if they can't get people under them, then they don't get money from the government. So, I mean, the corruptness and the stuff that they do to keep people in Medicaid is crazy. And they don't talk to each other. They don't proactively help, And you mentioned Jim, and one of the major things that he said a lot is uniting together. And you don't know. I mean, you don't know how many advocacy groups that I bump into and that help so much that people don't know about. With budget cuts, you got to understand some benefits may drop. So when you have advocacy groups that say, "Hey, vets in the U.S. need this benefit," how many disabled vets are there that Life Alert will save their lives? You know, so we got this little secretary, Christine, part of an advocacy group, and she's going before Congress and passing Life Alert. So now the vets in the U.S., can have Life Alert. The VA didn't do that. A lady from an advocacy group did that. So it's like you said, we the people, and there's stuff out there, you know, and it's like if you don't form to help people, the government's not going to do it. We got to step up and do it. We have to.
I agree. I think that we have to in a sense pull our heads out of the sand and come together um, ourselves to solve some of these issues, because I just think that um, we cannot and we should not rely on the government for sure to assist. Some of the most dangerous words uh, are as "I'm here from the government, I'm here to help," right? That usually has some negative connotations to it. But we are joined on the stage by King. I want to go ahead and pass the mic over to King, and I don't know if you had any comments you wanted to share and about what we've been talking about.
Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to say hi to the room. I haven't been up for a while. I'm feeling like I like all these conversations and I'm listening and I like different perspectives. But sometimes if I feel like I can't bring no value to the conversation, then I just stay down. Just
Mm-hmm.
saying that, like for sometimes when I'm in a room a lot, and I might not come up. And I don't think I can add too much to this now, but I did want to just give my perspective on some things, and then listen to the room and just get the feedback. And mine is like I try to view the world with some optimism.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear a lot of doom and gloom. I feel like when I'm in spaces, and it's like I heard this quote one time, and I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it was something like with the Bible, the same verses that they can condemn people with, they can use those same verses and uplift people with. And
Mm-hmm.
when I hear that, and I don't have a religion, but I believe in a higher power. There's a creator. I will believe in that. Um, I think that it's all about according to how you see it. Like I hear a lot with like government's too big. We need smaller government. We need things like that, and I can agree with a lot of that, right? And then I'll look at it again from a different point, and I'm thinking as long as the population grow, the government's going to grow. And then when I hear the government, I'm confused because it's like, well, who's the government, right? The government is made up of everybody from the country. Half of them don't get along. I'm almost close to calling this to stop calling this the United States because I don't think it's united. I mean, a lot of people may not want to have that conversation, but at the same time, I feel like uh, to protect you, to make sure that this thing runs right, we're gonna need the size of government that we have. Um, yeah, it's going to be bad actors in everywhere. I don't think it's always like say, we say some people are still making it to where you're not getting completely healthy. They want to string you along because it brings money. I'm 100% sure there's probably going to be people in there like that, but I don't think it's going to be all. and I use caution when I say the government, right? I think that regardless of what side you're on, United States almost got taken not too long ago. Uh, and if the government was any smaller than it is now, I think it would have. All right. And then I ask myself questions because I'm one of the ones that really don't like the firearm thing no more. Like I've worked with a lot. Like I said, I respect the power of it. It's just not something for me. It's not nothing that I'm against, and I think
Hmm.
everybody should have a right to own it. But I started thinking like, all right, we collect all these guns, right? You got them in your house. You're gonna make sure if the government ever try to come take your gun, you're gonna fight them, right? But as a people, we're not even on the same page to where if they did come to your house, right, and they're gonna do the same thing. And when I say I got to be cautious when I say they, because it's just if someone is in the government and they're being nefarious and going to work, they're gonna smear you, make
Hmm.
everyone separate you and get away from you, and then come do whatever they want to you, regardless of what you have in your house. And so like that's how I see certain things as far as that. Like I gotta get deep into thought on what I'm saying and what I want to do and what I'm trying to do, and to just jump and bounce around because my mind it just jumps like that. So bear with me a little bit.
Hmm.
Anything that they say about crypto, money laundering, all that, whatever we have that we're going to trade for value is going to be used to do those type of things. You're going to have those type of people, and
Yep.
I'm a believer that if we really want this to be a better place, all we got to do is be better people, be a better person, which it starts with you, right? Just be
Yep.
a better person, be a better person. And what I've noticed around me, and I'll try to like bring it down to so I can speak general, like around me. People don't want to do that because you feel like even when you're a better person, but what look at over there, they're still, and I feel like you're getting away from the whole point of be a better you. You know what I mean? That stuff will work its way out. And then in those instances, same thing what you were saying with like people may get your crypto. There's people at the work at the phone company that'll steal your information. There's people that work at the bank. There's people that work at everywhere. So
Yep.
now, on the one thing you said, is it the bank that's going after everybody information? It could be. Is it an employee with power that just wants more information? I work at a job where some of the employees overstep them bounds all the time, and the union got to step in. It is so. I think it's so many things that it could possibly be, in so many ways it can possibly go, that when we draw back and just try to put a light on something as a whole, I think we miss a lot. I do, I've been personally just living my life with optimism, like I said, and I've been fine. I've
Yep.
been fine in the crypto space. I'm not wealthy and none of that kind of stuff, but just fine as far as I'm learning, I'm listening, I'm
Yep.
able to put one and one together from hearing what you say and what Mark say and what the group says and what other groups say, and so I'm able to pull it together that way. I think communication is key. I think these things are good, and more groups should talk as a whole. Um, Crypto is coming. The adoption eventually is going to have to happen. I agree with y'all. I think a lot of our Congress here is older, and they're holding on to something that they know, almost like the people that don't want to give up writing, vice putting it down, on a computer or a keypad. It's just some people get stuck in a time that they fell in love with, and they don't want to advance. I also
Yep.
believe they don't want to let all that money go without having a proper way to get their hands on some. I mean, we've seen that a lot too. So I
Yep.
just be having a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of mixed feelings. And I try to bring it in some. Sometimes you got to push it out to see the whole thing. And I just wanted to say I appreciate all of y'all. I love all the spaces. That's just my perspective. And listen, something for guys to chew up and spit back at me. Well, I don't think this is what I see wrong in what you're saying, and that'll help me grow as well. And so I just wanted to come up and say that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for coming up. And, you know, to build off of kind of what you said, a lot of the stuff that we do try to talk about in some of these topics is to bring awareness because not everybody has an opportunity to go and dig into some of this information. But if we are able to bring some of it to you guys so that you're aware of what's going on and have these discussions too about, what we can do as a community to kind of be watchful of this. Um, bring information out there to help folks stay safe in when you're investing in this, crypto ecosystem. What we're able to do and come together like in a as a community standpoint, you know, I can really boil it back down to what we're doing within Zeno to take the technology, use it for what it is. It's a tool for us to create, uh, money to be able to give back in the real world and do something positive with it, right? Whether some people are using crypto for nefarious things, some people are using it for positive, right? And that's what we want to be able to do. We know what's coming. How can we best educate our community on saying, hey, this is the stuff that's going on. We can learn to take advantage of this system or play the system for what it is. It's a tool for us to be able to build some extra wealth out of, being, early adopters, taking advantage of, the proof of work and turning it into income for our project and our community, then to change some lives, not only from the standpoint of you guys as individual NFT owners, but also what we're doing with the veterans programs, especially what we're able to bring with Leo and the foundation and what we're trying to build with a 501c3 and then give back. All right. So as much as the bullshit that goes on within the financial system, there are ways that we can use that system to our advantage to be able to do some positive things, right? And I will agree. There's a lot of things out there that are or do appear as doom and gloom. Um, and I think some of that is also created by the news outlets to also keep people out of this particular ecosystem because it has the ability to really create some wealth. All right. If you're an intelligent investor, where's the smart money going? You're seeing a lot of smart money that's going into crypto, especially with these recent discussions around Bitcoin ETFs. Um, if and when that actually occurs and there's regulation that's going to have to be laid out in order for that to occur, we've already seen just the amount of money that's going to be flowing into, say, Bitcoin in itself. We're talking billions of dollars. And what is that going to do for us from the standpoint of me as an investor being able to come into our Xeno mining community and make an investment of $300 into an NFT with the rewards that are paying me out over time. I get some time freedom. I have passive income streams. If the price of Bitcoin continues to rise, and again, it's not linear, right? It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up. But if ETFs get approval, with what we're able to turn into rewards from our mining is absolutely going to be an enormous addition to somebody's portfolio if they're able to make that $300 investment and be able to get Bitcoin rewards. If Bitcoin now goes up to 100K, 150K per Bitcoin, what you're getting for that initial investment can be absolutely life changing for some folks, right? Because it could start out as a simple reward structure of, hey, now I'm getting enough Bitcoin and altcoin rewards. I'm actually able to go and cash that out and I'm able to make my car payment. Right. And now I don't have to worry about making a car payment for the next 3 months because my quarterly rewards have now paid for my car payment. Or maybe actually, maybe I've taken it and I now have enough where I can go and make my mortgage payment. I mean, this could be a huge financial stress reliever for a lot of people when they get invested into a passive reward system that money is coming in all the time, especially because when you look at what your cost is per NFT and as the price of Bitcoin goes up, it becomes a huge or even a bigger gap as the price goes up of what your rewards are. It can start to really, really, really make a difference. Right. So, um, I'm excited to see that because we're well positioned, especially with the increase of our mining capability, with what we're reaching for with VCs. This is going to be a huge, and Paulie can talk about this if he's back. But what we're building and putting into action is going to be much larger than what we're at right now. What we've been able to achieve as a community and as a team, is a testament of what we're able to do when people with talents and drive come together. So, Keen, going back to what you say, I know there's a lot of negativity out there. I think that we as a community like to bring some of this stuff to attention, but also be able to look at it from the positive impact that we're able to make for a community as well.
Yeah, I want to add to that because, and this, you know, I don't know how long we're going, but I want to finish with a positive story, and because you talked about King, you talked about people, doing good, and so my boss Phil, I've been working with VA and Medicare and Medicaid. He does a soup kitchen, during the lunch time, and he has a agreement with Samaritan's Purse, so they have a bus. It's a city bus. It's free, and they pick everyone up and they go to the drop them off at the kitchen. Then once a week, Samaritan's Purse takes a tractor trailer and unloads the food, and there has to be a team that unloads it, makes it each lunch. And so one time he was go driving at the bus, and they stopped right in the middle of the woods, for no reason. And then he looked in the woods and he started seeing people come out of the woods, and there was like 20. So I guess there was a homeless camp like in the woods that they built, and that they would uh, take the people, and some of them were vets too. So they were taking the people and bringing them to the church or the place that they had for the kitchen, and would drop them off. And that's something that we're gonna do. Um, so and that's, I mean, that's something positive that it will happen, and we are gonna do that. And I think the open doors are out there for people. They got to have, not they need to have connections, but you just got to know how to work it. And there is positivity, and there is things that we can use, you know, to make that happen. And we are, and we know about it, and we have connections. So I'm really positive in that. I mean, there's going to be some people that we're going to be helping and changing their lives one day at a time, and at these places, not only are they going to get lunch, but we can have a VA rep talk to these vets, give them benefits, just talk with them. And we can have Medicare people talk to the benefits and Medicaid for disabled civilians too. So it's like, and then we can have an educator come in, do some tutoring, educate them on AI, chat GDP, Udemy courses. So there's always, I mean, it's just foundation. We're just building it, and it will happen. It is going to happen. And, so just want to say that.
Agreed. Thank you, Leo, for stating that. Yeah, and I think that just comes to it, being around the right people we have in the team to build what we're building, and we'll take this stuff and do something positive with it. So, absolutely. On that note, guys, I think that we'll go ahead and we've been going for about a little over an hour now. So I want to go ahead and wrap up today's Let's Get Digital episode. We'll be back again tomorrow. Don't forget, we do have I want to say men's mental health. We do have a mental health space tonight as well, that we'll be hosting. I believe that's what, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right, Leo?
Yeah, in 22
20
minutes.
minutes? Okay, 22 minutes. Right on time, right? For mental health. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful evening. If you guys are able to tune into the mental health space, we'll be back up in 22 minutes. All right.
Thanks for hosting, Vince.